Hi, I'm Milesy, and welcome to another art video. This is one that came from a picture I took somewhere near Depot Bay. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was out there somewhere. And it's a pretty small one as far as even these ones go. There were 90 colors in it. So, not quite as varied with the color, and I think that kind of came back a little bit later and made it look not so good in a few places. I probably should have let it have more colors than it did, but a little too late now unless I want to go back and redo it, which I don't, I have to be honest. But it just turned out weirdly dark in some areas, which is always going to happen to some degree because when you see it on the monitor, you're looking at light, and light's always going to be a little bit brighter than the pigment in the floss, so it turned out weirdly dark, to the point that I actually got confused and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought that the cloud was the sea because it wasn't the right color that I thought it should be, but it works overall. I mean, you can still see what it's supposed to be by the time it gets finished, even if it didn't quite turn out how I wanted to, but it works, I guess. And one thing the camera's really not picking up is there is a weird amount of purple in the sky, and I'm not really sure why it wound up so purple, but this is why you want to always test your patterns before you start giving them away or selling them, I guess, because it's really hard to tell exactly how it will look on the fabric. And the fabric that I'm using, for those who like to know, is just 22 count. It's my favorite for doing full coverage things like this because I can only use 2 strands and get away with doing 2 strands on tent stitch, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. I didn't use any of the metallic or the rayon floss for this. It's all cotton. I didn't really feel like blending anything because it didn't need it. There weren't enough colors. Most of the colors are white, which I know is really hard to see. I had problems with it, and over on the right hand side, by the time I was done, none of my stitches were where they were supposed to be, just because the floss was so similar to the background, and I was pinning stitches with that very similar colored floss, and it just made a big disaster, but you can't tell because it's all white anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And I know that the light kind of flickers and gets really weird sometimes, especially on these longer videos, and that's because I filmed them over the span of a few days. This took about 13 hours over 3 days. And I try to make sure that the white balance is as close as possible and even do some touching up afterward when I'm editing, but I can't always get them to look exactly the same without popping the colors obnoxiously or having to really bump up the saturation. So if the light changes, that's why. It's just because these things take a long time to film, and my recording setup really isn't set up to keep that consistent, so oh well. But this, I think, was when I really started to realize that there was too many dark colors, because I knew that there were trees and roughly where the trees were, even if I didn't have the image in front of me, but there was starting to be like just these big patches of gray where I didn't think big patches of gray belonged. And so this was when I was really starting to panic, especially because there was this weird purple in the sky that shouldn't have been there, and then it was really weirdly gray. So as a test, it turned out, you know, a little bit funky, but as a finished object, I'm still really pleased with it. But I guess that's really all I have to say about this one, so I'll leave you here to watch the rest of it. is. It's really very tiny, but I'm, like I said, pretty pleased with it. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon down there to be notified right to your phone or to your email anytime I upload or go live. And you can also check out my Patreon, which is linked right up here for some extra goodies. You can get some patterns, downloads, and exclusive little live stream things amongst other goodies there. But that's all for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!